Welcome into the Boardroom podcast. I'm Ward 6 Alderman Ben Piper.
Ward 4 Alderman Chad M. Wicker.
There you go. Chad, what's your middle name?
McKell.
Okay. I didn't know that.
My son's being picked on because of he has the same middle name as I do.
Okay.
Not really. I'm just his friends mess with him. They call him McKell all the time. He doesn't.
How you
like
spell it?
Micale.
Okay.
So my mother
okay.
is from Louisiana, and I think she kind of used like the French Cajun is where it's originated from. So I'm Chad McKell Wicker.
Okay. I did not know that.
And a funny story is, when my high school graduation, I was kind of embarrassed about it too. So I was going to get Coach Case or Freddie Joseph to say Michael. Mm-hmm. And man, my mom didn't like that one bit. She likes the
Did they say your whole name at graduation?
Yeah, they did.
They did.
Chad McKell Wicker. Yeah.
Big time. Well, we didn't have a middle name during.
Well, you went to
high school
some
graduation.
fancy school with probably 10,000 kids.
No, we're just very old suburb kids, you know. They did read all our names out, which, man, we've got one coming up. My nephew is graduating from Bentonville West High School over there in Arkansas.
By Walmart.
That's right. And we're going to his graduation coming up in May. And I was like, I wonder if they still read everybody's name off. And my wife was like, of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course they do. I was like, I wonder what the enrollment is. I looked up, it's like 4,000 kids at this school. I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be. We better bring a snack. We might have to bring a peanut butter jelly sandwich for the.
Yeah. See, so I'm a W name. You're a P, so you're towards the end. You know. What's the code if you're like a?
Oh, their last name's W too, so it's like.
So what if you're like your last name's like an A or a B? Do you get up and leave?
You could.
Huh?
Or
is that kosher?
Or on the flip side, if you're a W and the kid's not going to speak or anything, can you show up late? And then they're like on the D's, and you're like, all right, well, save a little time.
I've been to a couple of college graduations and those things. Like Ole Miss or Mississippi State, those things kick on for a long time.
Drop it in the comments. Is it okay to leave the graduation early or show up late, knowing where your kid's name is? I think if it's your kid, you have to be there for the whole thing. But if it's like extended family, maybe a little grace. I don't know. All right, that's enough silliness, I guess. Baseball. Is your kids playing baseball? Softball?
He does not want to play baseball. We just finished soccer, as you know.
Yep.
You're coaching the team, so we just finished that. And we're kind of in the off season. We're going to do Haifa football. So I think we're going to do a couple of the camps, the soccer camps when they get going. And
that's it.
Kind of it. We're gonna. And my older son's playing football for the middle school, so he'll have practice this summer. So.
Well, we are here Tuesday morning. The polls have just opened. We've got an alderman at large race
runoff
in Hernando. It's the runoff. April 22nd. So if you're listening to this, we're going to try to get it up as quickly as we can. And if you haven't voted yet, please go out and vote. Wards 5 and 6 are at Colonial Hills Church. Wards 1 and 2 are at the Gale Center. And then Wards 3 and 4 are at the Redemption Church on Highway 51. Get out there and vote, folks. It's important stuff. We have former Alderman Jeff Hobbs that's running, and he's served as a Ward 6 alderman for a while, and then he was unseated in 2021.
Well, he tried to run for alderman at large. He attempted to run for alderman at large and was not successful.
I misspoke. And then we have Lauren McClendon. That is the other candidate in there. They were the top two vote getters. Get out and vote. We have, we decided from the get-go we weren't interviewing all these folks. We weren't really doing any kind of analysis or, saying what their policies are or anything like that. So we've kind of stayed out of that one. Get out and vote. Do your research.
I will say from all the mailers I've gotten, both of them seem to be conservative. At least that's what it says on their card.
Yeah. And I think both of them have worked very hard.
Yeah.
And any of y'all that have ever thought about running for a position, just know it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of sacrifice. And, it is it just really can be mentally very exhausting for sure.
Yeah, well, I think we chose not to publicly, endorse or interview either one because we're going to have to work with either one who's victorious on the board. We did the same thing with the a Ward 5 race, and so. But you have to kind of give your hats off to anybody who puts themselves out there and decides to run for office, because I think they really want to make a difference. So
that is right. So get out and vote, and we will certainly do a little recap of that before the end of the week, right? You want to do another episode before the end of the week?
we can, yeah.
Or maybe before the end of the month. Maybe end of the month we can bring some people on, see if anybody wants to guest host with us. All right, so we had a Board of Alderman meeting April 15th, tax day. Hope you filed your taxes. If you haven't and you're listening to this, you were late. And probably the big one that caused a lot of conversation after the fact was item number 11, the Pinnacle at Getwell Farms, a rezoning of 167 acres from agricultural to PUD. So essentially, it's a mixed use rezoning. It's some old farmland that was cut in half by the 269, and I think the basis for the rezoning is, hey, there's an interstate in the middle of our farm. we want to sell this 167 acres to have it developed with some retail, some mixed-use buildings that have lofts above restaurants or boutiques or whatever it may be, a convenience store, and then 5 warehouses in the back of the development, further off of Getwell. So this is at Getwell and 269, the first parcel to the north on the left side of the road. There was only one resident that showed up that spoke in favor of it, and that was pretty much it. There wasn't a lot of discussion. I think there were some questions around building heights and some of these other things. The building height for the warehouses capped at 50 feet, and then there's 2 hotels, I guess, that's also included in this. I forgot to mention that. 2 hotels that were included in that. They have was it 7 stories? Is that right? 5 stories or 7 stories?
I think it's 5.
5 stories. So it's probably 70 feet or something. Mm-hmm. That's probably what I'm thinking, if it's 5 stories tall. So yeah, I think that if you listen to this show, you probably follow social media and politics and things pretty closely in Hernando. There's a 5-2 vote. Chad and I were the votes against. I had issues with some of the infrastructure-related things. With the water and sewer being extended there, it's probably going to be multi-agency, county and city, working with the developer to get those things extended. How those are funded is there. I think there's a few routes for that, but is there a route that doesn't involve taxpayer, involvement? I'm not sure. I don't think that that's a guarantee. Additionally, anytime we've had warehouses brought before the city of Hernando, there's been some sort of tax incentive that is that's brought along with it. Now, that's not until usually after it's built, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
To bring a company in, because a lot of these companies want to hold on to the warehouses and do, kind of a triple net lease, right, where they own the building, they own the land, you're operating the building, and you're operating whatever business inside of there, and the tax incentives, sometimes they can range from, it could be a 30% decrease in property taxes sometimes. And, certainly we could wait to vote against that when the time comes, or negotiate those things out when the time comes. But we could also just vote to not put ourselves in that situation where we have to make that decision and just say, listen, this isn't something that we want. But, obviously we're moving ahead there, 5-2 vote. So that land has been rezoned, and that will be what is coming to that area. Chad, any more thoughts on that before we?
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well. But again, it's a I voted against it for several reasons. Some of the things you mentioned, but also the traffic on that Getwell Road is I don't think is at a point to handle that development if it's built out. Now, I don't know the timeline of how quick they're going to be building in that property. I know there's, like you mentioned, getting sewer and getting water hooked up there is going to be probably a good bit of time, 18 months, probably 2 years.
Yeah, that's
at the earliest.
That's fair.
But there was a lot of chatter on social media about approving apartment complexes or whatever. I think that's kind of been disproven that that's what we did, or what the board did. Again, I would encourage people to watch our meetings. When we post the agenda, we post the planning commission meetings are online. All these rezonings go through the planning commission, and just give us feedback if you have issues, right? If that's something that you have an issue with, or even, a lot of times what I found, Ben, is people may not. It's because they don't mess with it a lot. They don't understand what's going on, right? And so the narrative is this is an apartment complex with some industrial,
Yeah.
right? Now, why I feel like I sound like I'm trying to defend what happened, but I voted against the project. But there is a area for some type of industrial hotel mixed use area with some residential loft or whatever. So a lot of time, one of the big questions was, is this going to be rental property? That's going to be completely up to the homeowners association there. But at the end of the day, is this something that we want in Hernando? I know the family that owns that property has tried 2 or 3 times now to sell it and try to rezone it to something. And this is the first time I think the neighborhood around them, or the neighbors around them, just wasn't up and down upset about it. So
Sure.
I think that maybe, I'm not trying to speak for the other board members, but maybe that had something to do with why they were supportive of this plan.
Yeah, I think so. I think that some of the other board members maybe wanted a more comprehensive plan for all of that property, rather than just something that's piecemealed together where it's 4 acres, it's going to be a C-store, and then we'll figure out the rest later. I think having the bigger comprehensive plan was probably more appealing. Something I hate to speak for them, and we can certainly have them on at some point to talk more about planning and city planning and what their thoughts are on it. But I do think that one of the things that I've seen often that people have posted about is, whether it's apartments or lofts or whatever you want to call them, one thing that does partially insulate Hernando in some ways when it comes to those is the architectural standards of the building that we require, correct?
That's right, yeah.
So you could not build any kind of apartment building or any kind of residential building that's like a metal building, or it has to be brick, mostly brick, correct?
Yeah, we don't allow metal buildings in Hernando.
But even with residential, like there has to be a certain percentage of brick, I feel like.
That's right.
Right. So, even if you're, the hotel that's being built behind Guarantee Bank right now, there's a certain percentage of stone and brick on it, which elevates the cost of the building. Same thing. So if they are doing some sort of loft retail, it's going to be very expensive to build, which means that the rent is going to be high, or the cost to own one of those lofts is going to be very high. I think that that's one element of it that does insulate Hernando a little bit from some of the concerns people have about these types of buildings.
And that's one, when we do a rezoning, I think that's why it's good to have it rezoned to a PUD or a planned unit development, because that gives us, or the city anyway, a lot of ability to dictate the way something looks, what kind of goes there, or the type of uses that can go there. That's different than if they just rezoned it to a C4 or M2 or whatever. And so that this is a PUD, so that what can go there is clearly defined in each section of the PUD. Each I think there's 6 sections.
That's right.
What can go in each section, that's all clearly defined. The type of uses, the architectural designs, all that. So I don't think there's any question it's going to be, if it is built, it's going to be a nice looking development. I don't think that's a question. I think the appropriate uses, I think, is where people get sidetracked, and there's several different uses. I know from talking to the developer, he's looking at maybe some medical office space,
Okay.
hotels, big box store, So not necessarily just warehouse space in the back there. So, but that's all premature. I mean, there's no
That's right.
no for sure client yet.
And once, if and when these buildings come to fruition, they do generate a larger sum of property tax revenue compared to
That's
a
right.
neighborhood.
That's right.
So at that point, if the concern from the community is crime or whatever it may be, right, or infrastructure or whatever it may be, then it's incumbent upon us as board members to say, okay, we have some additional revenue from these buildings. We need, how many more police officers? How much more fire protection?
Right.
Fire protection is is going to be a big focus, I think, in that part of the city, in the northeast part of the city, over the next 4 or 8 years.
Yeah.
Because there's no fire station up there. There's going to have to be one at some point. We know that. We got to plan for that. So.
And the gentleman that spoke in support of it, I think he lives across the street. One of his reasons for supporting it is because if they get sewer brought to this area for those warehouses, they're going to give him the opportunity to hook up to it, which is going to make his property worth more and maybe possibly get the next land hooked up to the sewer as you go. It's kind of like a daisy chain. And so, that will help develop that property.
And I get that frustration. Much of my ward was annexed in, almost 20 years ago now. And there's people that still haven't gotten city sewer. They feel like they're on the very edge of the city limits, and hey, what do we really get other than higher taxes for being out here? We see a police officer once a month, and that's it. So I hear that often. And I know every other person on the board doesn't have to hear that all the time, but I hear it pretty often. So that is a positive for them. I do think it would be great to, have more retail for our people that live here in our city.
Yes.
Whether it's restaurants or whatever it may be, I think everybody understands. Hey, this is an interstate exit. Something is coming here. That's at Getwell and at Mackinville both. Those are going to be corridors that have, homes and retail that's going to come.
Well, Ben, we've talked about having good problems and having people want to build in our city and so forth. But I know we both have talked about we're trying to run government like a business, and so when you have a chance to increase revenue, you got to decide if that's what you really want to do. So when you increase revenue, you got a chance to increase expenses, which means maybe investing more in our infrastructure. That means maybe investing more in our employees, maybe adding more police officers, more firemen, adding staff to our planning department. All these things, investing in our parks that we've done. So to do those things, we have to increase revenue at some point. And so these type of developments, and I certainly understand people's frustrations with them. And again, I think it sounds like me and you are trying to defend the board on this. But I can see why possibly people would be supportive of something like this.
Yeah, I think we're trying to be balanced and not just represent our own thoughts on it.
Yeah.
But maybe just some some things that we heard after the fact or whatever else. So I do think that I definitely stand by my decision, stand by my vote. You did mention parks. We're going to segue. I think we've heard enough about the Pinnacle at Getwell Farms. RCL, big shout out to RCL. The RCL events lawn at Renaissance Park, outfield signs at the Heindel Center for the Performing Arts at Renaissance, softball fields at Renaissance Park, a scoreboard logo. They're going to have a sign at the pavilion at Renaissance Park, a 6-year agreement, $85,000 advertising contract with the city. Very, very big news for the Parks Department there. That was one of the things that was in our consent agenda. That's a continued effort by our the advertising group that we partnered with to get some revenue for the new Renaissance Park.
Yeah, I don't have the total on that, but that has been very successful.
I want to say
contract. I mean, we're probably in at least, I know the 6 figures.
Yeah, no.
Long term sponsorships. I think there's multiple companies that have put serious money into the parks to have a banner, or they have some naming rights and things, and that all goes back into our program and continues to enhance the park program. So
I think it is. I think it's gone over $250,000.
okay.
I think it with this amount. I think it's over $250,000 or very close to
Well, I
it.
know some of them were some longer term. I think 5-10 year
Right.
naming rights and things. So
There's still opportunities out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's still plenty of things out there. So if you're a business owner or you influence your business owner,
get you the Ben Piper 5 to
there
6 year
will
old
not-
T-ball field. Or
Yeah,
something.
I don't think that's going to be
Huh?
a thing. I don't think that's going to be a thing. Sorry to say. Like we just said, tax day was last week, so I don't have any money. All right, that was the big thing coming out of that meeting. What else we got, Chad?
So there's several kind of, I don't know if you want to get into all of them, but we had the YMCA announced.
Yep. Big news. Big news.
That was on Wednesday. They the Maddox Foundation announced they were going to commit $30 million
Wow.
to facilitate the construction of a YMCA at the Delta Landing plan. And I've posted pictures. I think it was on the news. People have seen it. Really nice. Lazy river, a pool thing. It's going to have indoor pool. It's going to have, I think, a spa area inside. Weightlifting. I know you do a lot of weightlifting, so you probably be there all the time.
That's some rich, good content. Yeah, I do not do weightlifting.
But that's a big thing that my understanding. This is when I was in high school, but I think we missed the opportunity to get a YMCA in the early 2000s. And they decided to go to Olive Branch, and so we, 20 years later, have got the opportunity to get another one, and it looked like it's going to happen. So
I think that indoor swimming and outdoor swimming.
oh yeah, indoor pool. It's
indoor
going to have
swimming.
lap pool, and then, like I said,
Maybe that's what I'll start doing. Maybe I'll be a swimmer.
hey, swimming's legit. Now that's a good cardio.
Go
workout.
get how many laps do you think you got to swim? Like 50? Is it something crazy like that, or is it like can I do like 10?
Yeah, well, you start out doing,
Probably like 1.
yeah, 1 or 2, and then you get like Michael Phelps would spend like 6 hours a day in the pool swimming.
Man, and then look what he got to eat.
Yeah,
that was
just staring down at the line, just with headphones.
I
in.
eat like that currently, but don't do anything. So it's I gotta get on the swimming plan for Michael Phelps.
That guy's a different breed, man.
Yeah, he looks a little lankier than me too.
So that was exciting. We're going to have the YMCA there at the Delta Landing. They generously donated, I think, 2 acres of land. They're right across from the high school in their subdivision PUD there, didn't they? Something like that.
I think it was more than that.
Over 2 acres, or maybe $2 million worth of property. I think is what it is.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was 13 acres of property.
Okay,
and
yeah.
it ties into some common area that they have and a green belt that runs alongside the creek right there.
Yeah.
That goes behind some of the homes that are being built and some of the residential units that are being built right there.
So you got the subdivision, you got the YMCA now. You're going to have the high school opening up. My wife had an opportunity to tour the high school last week, and she took some photographs and sent them to me. And man, that thing,
It's nice.
super nice,
Yeah.
super nice.
You're really going to have an opportunity. So there's at the very front of Delta Landing, there's a 55 and up community. Mm-hmm. So you could be, hey, time to retire. Let's go live a little quieter life out here in Hernando, 55 and up community.
Does that mean apartments, 55 and up?
No, they're homes.
You sure?
They're homes. They're homes. They're beautiful little homes.
Oh, okay.
You go and get a home. You got a YMCA right down the road from you.
That's right.
That you can drive a golf cart to
That's right.
and get your golf cart permit.
That's right.
Drive your
$25.
golf cart. You drive your golf cart to the YMCA. Get a little swim in. Mm-hmm. Man, I'm hungry. Let's go to Two Crazy Fellas and get some get some Cajun pasta or something like that. A place like that. High school football games tonight. You go right across the street, watch a high school football game.
Baseball,
call it a day.
soccer, everything.
Hey, there is it is really going to be a unique area, for Hernando. It's really going to be its own little community.
I'm not, I don't want to do any breaking news, but possibly some additional development in that area coming sooner than later.
Potentially. So we'll just have to wait and see on that and see what.
Be a good spot for a Chick-fil-A somewhere out there, wouldn't it?
Woo, man. You can talk about
The Lord's chicken, man.
That thing would print money. There's no doubt about that. So, yeah, I think, and that's one of those things too. I think that when you mention that, depending on who you're talking to, they either get excited or they.
And also, I was
worry
told
about
too.
traffic.
We had the board. I can't remember how we voted on that one, but there's going to be a convenience store on the corner at Pleasant Hill, and
Yes.
there's also going to be, I think, a Vive Nutrition is going to
Oh,
go
next
in
to
there.
it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that intersection has had some closures. Obviously McInville Road has been closed. I did start seeing the first, strips of asphalt go down. I think
Yeah, somebody
in one
sent
of the
that,
center lanes.
to our little group text. I think that
So
was Alderman Miller, I think.
Here we
that.
are in mid to late April, and we've already got some asphalt going down. That is a good sign that things are on track for hopefully being done, maybe even in June, in time for the high school to move over there. So certainly some good news on that front. YMCA, welcome to Hernando, and it's some big news. It's a really, really big investment in our community.
Yeah. The next thing, Ben, I want to talk about it is the federal court decided to, basically toss out the Senate redistricting plan.
That's right.
For DeSoto County and kind of sent it back to the drawing board. And so that's I know that was kind of a win for.
I think for
DeSoto
both
County.
I think that both of us posted about it, that we had advocated for Hernando to be kept whole and to try to keep all of our precincts together in one district, and that one plan did not have that. And our job is not to look at the larger county and state Republican politics. Our job is to represent the people of Hernando. My ward alone was going to be in two different Senate districts, and that to me just doesn't make great sense for Hernando, at least. So that's who I have to advocate for. I certainly heard the argument like, well, Hernando's not the only city that'd be split up into different areas or whatever else. But the other case with that people would make, they would point out cities that were really big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Hernando's still a pretty small town. We're 15,000, 18,000 people.
I told I think I told you asked me that there was some discussion that maybe other areas were getting split like that, and I follow it pretty closely, and there's no that was going to get city that our size was going to get dramatically split up like that. So
I think the other thing that we said that basically I think the judges panel agreed on is that you have these two areas
they're very
that
different.
are so vastly different.
Yeah.
Hernando that has a high voter turnout and of Republican voters.
Yeah, usually conservative.
This economically depressed area in the Delta that's being paired together. The judges were basically like, this isn't good for either group, really. And I think we said that on our podcast. Like Hernando's not happy with it, Clarksdale's probably not happy with it.
No, it's not. If you're getting represented in Clarksdale by a Hernando senator, you've got to have some reservations if he's going to be supporting some of your stuff, and vice versa if you're in Hernando and being represented by a Clarksdale senator, if you want to call it that. You can have some reservations about maybe our interstate or maybe our school system and things like that. It's just very different. And so I was glad to see that they're going to go back to the drawing board. My understanding, Ben, is they have until today to file some type of alternative plan and get a timeline going, because the original bill had special elections. You had to register or sign up to vote.
I think
sign up to qualify by May 31st, and then the primary election was in August, and then the general in November. So I don't know if they're going to change those timelines. And I've seen several different. I know the NAACP has a plan that's out there, or excuse me, the ACLU. They're all kind of together on this. I think Senator McClendon has a plan that's out there, and then also Senator Simmons, which is the Democratic leader in the Senate, developed a plan. And so there's 3 or 4 different, I guess, alternatives that can be chosen, or they can just draw up their own deal. So we'll see what happens.
The judges panel has got some big decisions to make.
If I had to guess, though, I think you're going to see a very large majority district drawn, probably starting around State Line Road, drove down the west side of the county. And so I think Senator Blackwell and Senator Parker are going to see their districts change probably the most. So we'll see what happens with that. So.
We'll definitely be watching that, and we'll follow up on it as soon as we know more. But what else is that all we got for today?
So that I think we've covered most of the meeting's been kind of light.
Yeah.
We encourage everyone to get out and vote today. We had a 10% turnout in the last election. We saw a race decided by 70 votes, so everybody's vote matters. And get out and vote. Support your candidate of choice. There's a lot of information on both candidates I think is out there. They're both very active on social media. And so they're that's a critical race because the next 4 years is going to be by that that person's going to have a say in what's going on in the next 4 years, and there's a lot of challenges and things coming up. So
absolutely. Well, we will continue to follow it. We'll have those election results on our next show, and we will hopefully get to talk to some of these new aldermen that will be taking.
have we mentioned have we did a show? Have we done a show since the election?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't remember. You're never on time for a show. So we gotta,
Oh my gosh, here we go. I know. Well, between alderman and working full time, and it's
you got too many kids, man. That's what it is.
Yeah, 3 kids. It'll do it. You've got alderman work and full-time job too, so we keep it busy. And you got who all knows what all other kind of businesses you're running.
Well, what does that mean?
Man, I'm just
not
saying,
in the mafia
busy
or
dude,
something.
busy dude. I'm just saying, you got man. I don't know all your business. I don't know everything you got going on. All right, we appreciate you listening. For now, I'm Ward 6 Alderman Ben Piper.
I'm Ward 4 Alderman Chad Wicker. Thank you for listening.
Everybody's waiting on a train, waiting on a train, waiting on a train. Everybody's waiting on a train, coming to town just to sit around. Everybody's waiting on a train.